The price is extremely high when you're operating from a place of hurt. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to KRSTV. This is your boy Kenny. And remember, subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, follow all the information I have in the description box. Also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And this is Ambition Season 1, Episode 16. And the name of this episode is Hit 'em Up. Like Blue Contrail song, Hit 'em Up style. Man, this episode was fire, and it's a 2 episode premiere. This one I'm just gonna do episode 16, and then I got episode 17 coming right after this. And y'all, did y'all see that promotion for the Have and the Have Nots coming back January 7th? I can't wait, y'all. So let's begin with this review here, because this episode was crazy. We first get a scene with Stephanie and her father, Stephen. Um, they pretty much, Stephanie had restructured the English Rose plan. Um, Novak is impressed. And they also reveal in this scene that Natasha is the one who killed Senior, but Stephen said the killer will go down. I made sure of it. How is that going to happen? Because we all know that Natasha is a big time thug, and she leaves no stones unturned everywhere she goes. So then afterwards, we get a scene with Evan and Rondell. They're talking about, challenging the will, and Darcia is still running her shenanigans, running the customers away and all of that. And pretty much Rondell is like, look, we got to find a way to not only stop Darcia, but we got to save Thelma's place. Then enters Chief Hobson, and Chief Hobson tells them that we have made an arrest in Senior's murder, and it's a guy named Cairo Winston. And they're like, and Rondell was like, he's a guy from the neighborhood. You mean to tell me that some thug in the neighborhood killed my father? Because they all are saying that, they're still thinking that Peters has something to do with it. Well, the thing is, Greg Peters' family has something to do with it, meaning Natasha's old grimy ass. But neither one of them know nothing about Natasha. But the Carlisles do, meaning Stephanie, her father, and I think also Irene knows too, because Irene knows everything. But then, the chief tells them that, yeah, we found Senior's wallet on him as well as the engagement ring. Um, and pretty much Evan was like, look, I'm not buying this shit. And if I had to go all the way up to the ranks, I will. But I want to speak to Cairo Winston myself. So then afterwards we get yeah, there we go right here. Cool. So then we get a scene with Amara and Titus. Titus has to meet with the board of directors, at Purifoy, because things have gone haywire at Purifoy since Hunter's racist email done made it out to the public. And Amara decides to tell him that she took a federal agent to go meet with Damien, and she said she wanted to, get to the bottom of him. Is he working with Stephanie? She also talks about that she also has to get her confession from Daphne, and with that, everything will fall apart. And then we get a scene with Bella and Perla. Perla comes in there with her snaky ass, bringing breakfast, trying to be cute. Bella is not amused at all. And she's like, why did you tell Evan about Ignacio? And she's like, oh, it slipped out. She's like, now me and Evan are at odds. We were in a good place, as far as co-parenting with, Joaquin, and now everything is now upset because you decided to open your big ass mouth. And then Perla was like, well, hey, I told him because, I wanted to tell him, I wanted to show him that you had options, um, and I was just trying to help you out. So Bella immediately peeped the bullshit. She's like, first of all, bitch, you said that it's first it slipped out, and now you're saying that you did this for my benefit. Which one is it? She's like, you know what? I thank you for you being here for me, when, Joaquin was kidnapped, but now everything's back to normal. Your ass can go back to your place. And you could just see that Perla was in her fucking feelings, and I'm like, bitch. Anyway, like, don't know, like, but we're starting to see that Perla is really, really demonic, and it really shows later on. Um, but yeah, Bella, little does she know, the whole kidnapping was concocted by your best friend who hates your ass. So then we get another scene with Stephanie and Steven. You're gonna put Senior's murder on some hood dude from the banks? This solves nothing. And we just see how shrewd Steven is, because Steven is like, this will work out perfectly because Cairo Winston has stage 4 cancer, and we made a deal to help support his baby mamas, also courtesy of Novak. And he took the fall. Steven makes a statement that in order to get to the top, you gotta have blood on your hands. And then Stephanie recounters it and says, yeah, but to stay on the top, you never let your enemies go unpunished. So I was like, oh, this shit is really getting crazy. So then we get a scene with Hunter and Titus. They're about to meet with the board of directors. Hunter with his fake bigot ass, it was like, oh yeah, Titus, my man, how are you, my brother? And all go to hug him and shit. And Titus is like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, I have to say, Kendrick Cross did some damn good acting this episode, because I was so here for it. They look, we're about to settle, with them, but he tells Titus, make sure we come out winning, because I'm not giving another dime to those vulture-ass Carlisles. Never again. And finally, the board of directors shows up, and then Hunter, with his evil ass, whispers to Titus that I brought you in this, and I could take you out. And then we see that the board of directors start, and they say that, look, this whole situation with the email has really caused a lot of chaos within the company, and as far as the reputation. And then Hunter being very arrogant, it's like, oh please, it'll blow over. We've done worse things than this. And the one of the guys that was speaking for the board was like, yeah, and you're totally disengaging the fact that this whole situation can affect our bottom line. And then the guy who's speaking for the board asks Titus, so Titus, what do you think of this? And he says, I agree with Hunter. And at first I was clutching my imaginary pearls, like, really, motherfucker? You agree with Hunter? Seriously? But he says that, yes, I agree with Hunter that this will blow over, but I know that our reputation will be damaged and irreparable. So I say that we actually, settle, this class action lawsuit with the Carlisles. Oh, and the board actually agreed with Titus. Hunter came in Titus's office after the fact and showed his royal, pompous, arrogant, racist ass. He starts talking all this shit to Titus, and he tells him, I gave you an order. And he's like, well, way you coming at me, it seems like a threat. And then he starts saying that you lucky you got the board of directors on your side, because if that wasn't the case, I would fire your ass on the spot. But as soon as this whole situation is clear, I'm done with your ass. And then he was saying that, look, and Titus like, look, I ain't got time for this shit. We need to get over to the Carlisle so we can discuss settling. And he's like, oh no, you think I'm going to let your ass, handle my business? Or I'm going with you. And I was like, Hunter needs, like, Titus had that look like he wanted to beat the shit out of Hunter, and I would have been so here for it if he did, because Hunter was way out of line. Like he actually made the right decision, while you sitting around here being arrogant with your nose up thinking that it's okay, while your fucking company is literally going down in the toilet. And here it is, this black man had the only viable solution to deal with the problem. So then we get a scene with Ignacio and Bella. You know, Ignacio comes in there with his vibrato saying, like, you know, that airport concession thing, you know, maybe you need to, I'm looking forward to what proposal that you have in regards to this, and I'm waiting to hear it. And immediately Bella was like, you know what, you full of shit. You know, first of all, I know the fact that your mother has dementia and that your brother, Martin, is the one that's really running Corazon Textiles. You know, so you've been lying to me since day one. And he was like, yeah, I have. But he explains how his brother took over and that how he had major influence on the board of directors and that he's, you know, he's self-serving, he's greedy and all of that. And but he was saying that, you know, what I had with you, you know, we were always talking about bringing in new fresh blood into the company, and you know, you were my secret weapon, you know, to actually finally Corazon Textiles could actually have in-house designs. And she was saying that he was telling her that you could be the face of Corazon Textiles. You know, that's what I was trying to set up for you. And Bella pretty much flipped it and was like, yeah, Martin agrees. Yeah, we had a lengthy conversation. He likes my proposal. And he says that the airport concession was a great idea. And he tells her, you can't trust my brother. And she says, yeah, and I can't trust you either. And she puts his ass out. So I was like, damn. So Ignacio is grimy as fuck, but I think his brother is even worse. So Bella may be barking more than she can chew. We just have to see how it all plays out. Then we get this whole scene between Evan and Steven. We see that Evan still has the chest piece of Senior. So we see that Evan is still grieving. You know, even amongst the fact that he's the mayor of Atlanta, he's still grieving the loss of his father. And then Steven comes in. You know, Evan ain't buying the bullshit. He's like, you know what? Whatever. And he says that, yeah, I talked to the Cairo Winston, and yeah, he made a confession, but I'm not buying it. And like, you know, but then like Steven's like, but yes, but I'm so glad that the case is finally solved. But you really know, motherfucker, that Natasha was the one who killed Senior. This damn Cairo Winston is just taking the fall for it. And y'all planted all of Senior's stuff on him, so he could, so therefore they have somebody that they've used as bait to take the fall. And he was saying that, yeah, I'm not satisfied because I know that Greg Peters was behind this, and your family is still gonna try to protect him after what he did. Oh, Steven was like, oh, but what happened to your make Atlanta great again, MAGA? I was like, I caught that shit. Your make Atlanta great again routine, and that how Greg helped fund your vision when you were running for mayor. And he was like, yeah, I admit doing business with him, but my situation with Greg was done when he came after my family and came after the banks. And here it is. You, on the other hand, just stood by and let the actual killer go free. And then all of a sudden, you know, Steven was like, look, I know you're grieving, but look, your judgment is really cloudy. We need to focus on getting that airport concession so at least we can get back to normalcy. Oh, you thought that he was about to pull out the proposal, but he buzzed his goons, my father-in-law, out of here. And pretty much Steven was like, you're gonna regret this, son. Evan got real bug, was like, I'm not your son. I had a father, and you're not half the man that he was. And I was like, then after, after Steven walks out, we really saw that Evan is still shooken up emotionally over his father. He still has the chess piece there and everything. And you saw him like literally fighting not to break down. And we see Greg Peters comes home to his lovely, luxurious apartment, and opera music is playing, and it's from Verdi's Don Carlo. I actually saw that opera. I saw it with Placido Domingo. And we come to see that Natasha is out on the lanai with a boy toy eating sour grapes and shit. And, pretty much Natasha and Greg go back and forth, and he's telling her that, look, you need to go back to Serbia, and that you killed the wrong family patriarch. And then all of a sudden she was like, well, didn't you know that somebody confessed to the murder of the mayor's father? And he was like, and she's saying that, look, I'm just doing my job. Your father put me in charge of this territory. And then he was like, well, why wouldn't anybody tell me about this? And she was like, oh, you feel some kind of way that you got left out? But don't worry, when I kill Stephanie, you'll be the first to know. I'm like, Natasha, you keep fucking with him because you know that Greg is in love with Stephanie, and you playing with that shit. And then finally he gets a alert on his phone. Stephanie's at the door. So when Stephanie shows up, she was ready to go after Natasha, and he was like stopping her, and he was like, and she said that, look, Stephanie was like, I know she killed Senior, and she let him know, you deal with her or I will. And then all of a sudden, after she left, damn, Greg was like, I wonder which one of you is crazier. I'm like, yes, because they both were off the hook. So I thought that was hilarious. Then we get the whole scene with Amara and Daphne. Daphne confesses to her involvement in the whole scheme. She mentions Evan, played a role, and pretty much we know that Evan was doing this, to help Greg Peters, because Greg Peters helped fund his campaign, so he in turn helped Peters gain some properties in Atlanta. That was the deal. If y'all remember from the very first episode of season 1, that was merely their exchange. And then they also mentioned how Herschel's role was, how he was passing this, passing the zoning applications through, and how they were sending these checks to a charity, but it wasn't a real charity. The money actually went to Herschel, and pretty much when Amara started to ask about Greg Peters, Daphne didn't have shit to say. She was like, no ties. I let you know that Evan was involved, but I never mentioned Greg Peters. So this pisses Amara off. Because it's clear that Daphne, that either that Greg got to her or Natasha, and she decided to protect them and not give them up. And she was saying that, you know what? This federal protection thing is off the table. So here you are up in my face after we done had this discussion about Greg and Evan and this whole situation. Now you want to come in my face and protect Greg Peters? He got to you. And then she lets her know, you better do not leave Atlanta. So Amara's pissed. Daphne goes to her car, and you can tell she's still looking around because she shook as shit. She calls someone, and turns out it's Greg Peters. He did get to her, and he tells her, did you do what I asked? And she was like, yeah. And she's like, did you call off your cousin? He was like, you know what, thanks for the update, and hung up on her ass. And her ass was still shook. I'm like, yeah, bitch, they might still kill you, because now, due to the fact that you talked to the feds, you're not only a liability for the Novak family, you're now pretty much not really for the Novak family, but Greg could care less. But now you're a liability for Evan, because now you done told some of Evan's involvement in this whole situation. So Then we go back home with Amara and Titus. Titus is pissed off because, he had a crazy day at work. Um, and then all of a sudden, Amara was like, yeah, and she talks about Daphne, and she's like, I thought she was going to sing like Anita Baker, and the bitch ended up singing like Anita Faker. I was like, oh shit, that was hilarious. And all of a sudden, they look on television, that damn Evan is pretty much holding, and he pretty much says that, he denounces, the whole bribery situation, and that he is completely innocent, and that I'm gonna have this whole office stripped down. And Daphne, who was the head of the procurement office, she has been fired. Shady's dealings. He says shady dealings within this office will be dealt with. So God bless you. And God bless the people of Atlanta. I was like, ooh. So Evan is now clearing himself. So now Daphne is literally left to her own devices, and she ain't got shit. See, your dumb ass should have stuck with Amara and should have fucking played ball, but your ass decided to flip the script, and now we don't know whether Daphne even survived, because we only seen her, the last time we saw Daphne was in her car. We don't know if Natasha done snuffed her out. And now Evan done threw the damn shit at her, so now everything is gonna be put on her. The very same damn thing that Amara told her ass, that bitch, if this shit blows up, you are gonna be the first one on the chopping block, and neither one of these men care about you. And we saw it. Literally. Amara was right on it. So then we see that Rondell is asleep in bed, and she's awakened by some large noise. She comes downstairs. She sees people gambling. She sees people drinking and smoking and all of that. And they literally turned Thelma's place into like a juke joint, like a ghetto ass juke joint. And then you see Darcy with she got a damn blunt in her mouth, and she counting money and shit. I was like, oh, Darcy is fucking doing the most. And then Rondell was like, Heifer, what the hell is this? And she says, oh, this is Thelma's After Dark. Where you could drink, you could smoke, and you could gamble. Mm-hmm. Yep. And here's a tip for the house. And she pretty much was giving Rondell a dollar bill. Oh, Rondell, paid homage to her daddy, got that shotgun and was like, party's over. Ran everybody up out of there. And then all of a sudden, it's just her and Darcy. And Darcy is still talking shit. You just mad because I'm a better businesswoman than you. You ain't gonna move no money just selling, ribs and cornbread up in here. And she's like, why are you doing this, Darcy? Look, are you still bent off the fact that Evan didn't help you when your dad died? And she was saying that, yeah, he left me high and dry and didn't do nothing for me. And you ain't do nothing for me either. And she was like, look, why don't you just take the money and go back to Chicago? He offered you $500,000. And she's like, that ain't enough. I'm like, really, bitch? Really? $500,000 is not enough? That's $500,000. She's like, shoot. Hell, I may need to talk to Greg Peters, because I'm pretty sure I could get at least maybe a mil or two for this. And because you dumbasses are in the way of my negotiations of that, I say a cool $1,000,000 will get me out of y'all hair. And I ain't accepting nothing less. So it just goes to show that Darcia is off because she's still mad that no one helped her, save her family's home. But obviously the bitch was gambling, because here it is. This is what she does on a regular. And I'm saying, like, girl, with that kind of hustle and the fact that you was making money, you mean to tell me that $500,000 you couldn't flip that and make more money? So the bitch is just being mean and vindictive. And that's what it all comes down to. And the same kind of thing happened right after that, because we see that Steven and Stephanie are ready to meet up with Hunter and Titus to settle the case. Steven is asking for $1.5 billion. And they go in there. Hunter and Titus, their offer is $950 million. And then as soon as Steven was about to mention that 1.5, oh, Stephanie took the high road and was like, $5 billion. I was like, oh, shit. Woo! That's a lot of damn money. And then the shit gets heated because just like the whole situation between Darcia and the Lancasters, there's some personal shit that really started to come out between Stephen Carlisle and Hunter Purifoy. Turns out Hunter inherited the Purifoy pharmaceutical business from his father, Gavin Purifoy. We find out that Stephen actually used to work for the Purifoy pharmaceutical company under Gavin, and while he was there, he ends up getting sent to prison for insider trading, but really, Stephen was innocent. This was Gavin's shit, and him and Hunter pretty much framed Stephen to take the fall, and pretty much his reputation, his license, and everything, he lost it all. But it wasn't until, but he said, but I got to start over, and I built myself back up. I started working at Sam Perkins' firm, who was Irene's father, the lawyer in the banks, and I worked my way up just to get you to this moment. And then pretty much Hunter was like, when does this end, Steven? And he says, when you don't have nothing left. So I'm like, when you operate from a place of hurt, the stakes get really high, and like, yeah, just like Steven, he's being greedy as shit because it's a personal vendetta. The same thing with Darcia's ass. So pretty much what happens is that Titus Hunter wants to leave and wants to take Titus. Titus ain't moving because Titus is kind of also thinking that, wow, Hunter's family really are some racist motherfuckers. But then he says that, look, we can't leave until we settle. So just go out and cool off. I got it from here. And then all of a sudden, Stephen told Titus, if you were smart, you would quit working for that pompous bigot. And then Stephanie took over and was like, okay, you need to go cool off, Dad. I'll take it from here. So here it is. You got the Titans, Stephanie and Titus, going head to head. She says, yeah, $5 billion. And, they start going back and forth. He mentions 2 billion. She says 3. And then he was like 2.5 billion, which was more than what Steven originally requested. So they actually made a good deal on that. We get a scene with Greg and Natasha. Natasha is feeling herself, about to make some dinner, and she was like, are you hungry? She's like, oh yeah, I'm starving, but unfortunately, your ass won't be staying for dinner. And then she was like, oh really? I just find it humor because you really think you still have power. And he said that what the funny thing about power, you can lose it, but then you can gain it back. And then the next thing you know, the goons that Natasha walked in there with, they pretty much gang her ass up. And she's like, what the hell is this? And he was like, I had to talk to my father. And I let him know how the mess that you made has now got the local, state, and federal authorities looking into us. And he wants to deal with your ass personally. And she was like, well, I was just here to clean up the mess of you and that black slut. I was like, ooh. And I was like, and then she was like, she will be the end of you. And he was like, you need to worry about your ending right now. Get her ass up out of here. So her ass was done. And I was like, that was a good flip, because Natasha's ass needed to go. Because all she did, because first of all, she killed Senior, so I wanted that bitch to get fucked up. And it goes to show he actually decided that he was going to back Stephanie because, as I said, he's in love with Stephanie. And we come to find that out later. Then we see that Greg goes to see Stephanie, and he's saying that, your daddy can't stop me from seeing you. And she says that our fathers is the least of the matter. I'm married to the mayor, and he's like, I'm a thug in a suit. I know. But did you ever think about divorcing Evan? I was like, oh, he's in love. And she was like, yeah, it crossed my mind as of late. I'm like, yeah, because you just found out he had a kid on your ass. But she's like, but we're from two different worlds. But he's like, yeah, but you know, two different worlds can get real hot. And the next thing you know, one thing leads to another, and they start getting it in at the office. And little does she know, Damien done placed the camera up in there, and Damien is up there watching, drinking a beer, like he's watching TV, and was like, gotcha. So he about to fuck with Stephanie. Then we get Perla and Peter, one of Evan's goons. He comes in there and she's like, what the hell are you doing here? He said, I'm here. I'll come here as much as the fuck I want to. And he says that, shoot, you're going to do everything I want you to do until I get tired of you. And she's like, and what if I don't want to do it? She's like, yeah, and you should have thought about that shit before you decided to kidnap the mayor's son. And he pretty much strips over and it's like, get your ass over. And so he pretty much pushes her on the bed and it's like, yeah. And she's like, okay, fine. Have your way. And he's like, yeah, that's more like it. He takes off his clothes and shit, gets in bed. Next thing you know, Perla gets on top of him thinking he about to get him some good poom poom. She has some scissors on the nightstand and starts stabbing his ass up. I'm like, Perla, bitch! Woo! That shit had me gagged. But that's what I have, y'all. That's how it ended. So I'm about to do the review for episode 17. Get down in those comments if I missed anything and let me know your thoughts on this episode. So until next time, everybody, take care.